Hello everyone and welcome to this quick e-learning where I'll be giving some advice and some tips when you plan to work on a cinematic, on a 3D cinematic using tools such as Maya, Cascadeur and Unreal Engine. My name is Johan, I'm a student at SA Institute Zurich and I'm currently doing my bachelor in 3D game art and animations. At the moment I'm working on a project, a short animation movie that I'm modeling and animating in Maya, Autodesk Maya 2024, as well as the new tool Cascadeur, and where I render and bring everything together in the Unreal Engine sequencer. On the background right now, what you can see is a shot rendered from the animation. So you can see this Mexican death themed characters, which I will be using to do a short movie of around 1 minute. In this quick e-learning, it's an e-learning, it's not supposed to be a tutorial. I'm not going to go through step by step on how I worked on this and implemented these tips and advice into my workflow, but much more what are the key things and important things to keep an eye on if you plan to do also a 3D animation and to work with a similar workflow, or if you are into trying out these tools and key things that you should keep an eye on so your workflow becomes more efficient and you don't have to go through certain struggles. So what exactly am I going to look at in this e-learning? For one point, I want to go through what are important things to do or to have if you want to work in between Maya and Cascadeur. There's a few things that you need to keep an eye on if you want to have a progress that involves less issues. I will also have a look at specific types of rigs. This is also quite an important point when you work with Cascadeur. It's quite a new software, so it doesn't quite cover everything that you might need for a full-on animation. But I want to go in and explain what exactly can the tool do, what is it good for, what is it not good for, and simply what you need to know if you want to create a 3D animation. Please note that it's important to at least have some fundamental knowledge on how to create animations, as well as maybe already know how to use the tools. I will be going into some basic points of these tools and what you need, but also a little bit more advanced stuff. So if you have common knowledge and the fundamentals on how to create 3D animations, it doesn't particularly matter if it's created in Maya, for example. You can also use Blender or any other software. It works quite similarly, but it's best if you already are familiar with the tools so you can follow along and maybe implement these points into your own workflow. All right, let's jump right into Maya. This is my Maya scene where I have all my characters. The two others are hidden. There's 3 characters that I want to have a look at in this quick e-learning. Um, all characters with different features. This first character is Katrina. She's the main protagonist of my cinematic, and she's a humanoid character. She has a humanoid skeleton, so basically all the bones that are needed for the tool Cascadeur to work best. Cascadeur is based on humanoid characters, so those are the characters that work the best there. As you can see, she's already bound to the skeleton. This is very important. Cascadeur has no function yet to rig the bodies and weight paint them. So if you want to work with your characters and create animations, then you need to have them bound to your skeleton and weight painted already. In this case, you can see she's already weight painted. The cloth are not completely weight painted yet, these 2 pieces, because I did cloth simulation in Unreal Engine, and I will have a quick look at that later as well. So that's the first character, the typical character. Then we have the second character, it's a little bit a bigger character. This is Caravella, and he's a little bit special because he doesn't have any legs. Now that affects the workflow in Cascadeur. I want to have a look at in a second. And last is not actually a character, but it's a weapon. It's a scythe. Um, there's different types of ways on how you can handle weapons in Cascadeur, and I just want to have a quick look on what freedom you can gain by adjusting a couple of settings and how you can influence your work. All right, so those are the three. You can simply export them. Just make sure that you export the entirety of the hierarchy by select hierarchy and export everything as an fx. Right, so if we jump in to the Cascadeur scene, you can create a new scene by create new scene here. But if you want to just simply import something, you can go import fx model, and then here I have Katrina, that's the first character. Now, if you have a humanoid skeleton or a skeleton in general, the scene will recognize it, and then a small window will pop up. Here it is, the rig mode helper. So here you want to go on yes, because the rig mode helper helps you if you have a humanoid character, that you can simply go into the rigging mode, the quick rigging tool, and here it says the character has been fully recognized in this case because it's a humanoid character, and that means that all these blue dots, they have been recognized by the scene and have been adjusted. So it's highly recommended here, very important, that you have a correctly named hierarchy for your bones, especially with left and right, because should it only recognize one side, then you can mirror it and can save a lot of time. Also, quite recently, the new function of fingers has been added to Cascadeur, so now you can also add your fingers. And how you can control that, I will show also just really quick. So once everything is correct, you can just add rig elements, and then it will create that specialized rig for you. Then it asks if you want to generate the rig and straight up go to animating, or if you want to continue editing. I'm going to say really quick just so I can show you really quick what's important about these functions and these controls that you're given by the tool. So up here you can see them, the different kinds. This, for example, is a point control. These are very important because these are going to be your FK controllers. The tool allows you to work in IK and in FK. So, and in some cases you might want to use FK rather than IK. So it's quite dynamic and you can switch between the ways of animation. Right, so, but everything is set up, and I want to have a quick look also at these blue balls. Those are rigid bodies, and they determine the point of mass, which is right here, this green one, the point of mass of your animation. In the best case, you want to keep these, they're a little bit big now, between or like inside of the mesh without affecting too much the point of mass. You want the point of mass to be pretty much centered where the heavy point, in this case, the pelvis of the character. All right, for instruction purpose, I'm just going to leave it like that, but then we can just go into get out of rig mode by pressing the rig mode button up here, and then here we are in the scene. So it has now generated these auto posing dots, which I will be using, or you will be using, to generate your animations. Now, as you can see, it's pretty dynamic. This is all IK, and I also see that the characters are, however, a little bit crooked at the back, and she's inclining a little bit. That is due to the measurements that the tool itself already has. It works with the default skeleton that it compares to the skeleton that you have imported, and if it's not quite the same, then it tries its best to adjust it. In this case, she's a little bit taller than the default mesh, that's why it's doing this crooked position. You can simply change that by adjusting these points on a key point. You can just pull them and then you'll see it will adapt the mesh rapidly. You shouldn't be playing, however, too much with these points. You are meant to work with these big ones and leave these as much as possible. In case that this isn't working, you can also go to point controllers and adjust it here. But yes, don't play too much with these. Try to stick with these. All right, so that's very important to keep in mind. As you can see here, the clothing is intercepting a little bit, which can cause a problem if I can't see the leg. If you want to hide something, you can simply go to your mesh, and then here in geometry, you can select the mesh, the part of the mesh itself, and then it will show in red. And if you want this to be hidden, so you can simply press V and then click into the scene, and then they will disappear. If you want to see them again, then you have to select them again and then go over here, view, and make all visible. All right. So that's important to keep in mind. It needs to be weight painted. It needs to be already bound to your skeleton. Now let's create a new scene so we can have a look at a special case and with a second character. So I want to import him, and I can see a caravella, put them in, and also wait. So it did recognize the rig, therefore the rig mode helper will show up. It is partly a humanoid character, so let's see how that affects. Yeah, so the character cannot be fully recognized. If it can't be fully recognized, then it won't recognize anything at all. So in this case, what you need to do is you need to put in the joints where you want them to be. Here, for example, if I want the pelvis, if you named them correctly, then it should be quite easy. You just need to drag them in. Now, stomach, I have no stomach here, but I have a spine, so this would work more or less good as a stomach. So I'm going to put this here. The chest, more or less, yes. And that's how you want to fill them in. Now, you can work with them without a problem, but it won't create an auto-posing feature, so you won't have the green dots to make the IK. However, you will be able to work in points controller over here. So it's very much possible to work with point controls as simply FK. If you don't have, out of experience, what I've noticed, if you don't have legs or you're missing certain parts of a humanoid character, then the autophysics tool, which helps you create or to add a little bit more motion into your animation so it looks better, can cause a lot of problems. So it is highly suggested that you only use humanoid characters, and if you want, you can still use FK for animations, but you might be missing out on the autophysics function. Exactly. So for the weapon, I'm gonna go back in here with this character, right? I can add multiple if you have Cascadeur Premium. The free version doesn't allow this, unfortunately, but if you have the premium version, the pro version, you can insert multiple meshes into one scene. I could also put Caravella in with Katrina. It is highly suggested, however, that when you're rigging it, that you rig them separately in scene and then simply import them into a new scene altogether. But yeah, if I want to create a new, if I want to add a new model, then I can simply go in here again, select the scythe, and then it will show up here. Now the scythe is just a little bit on my way, so I want to drag it out really quick. So I can go over here, scythe, and then pull it on the joint. Don't pull it on the mesh itself. So once you're here, now this is no character, so you can't really use the quick rigging tool because it won't recognize anything and there is nothing that we can assign it to. However, you can create an FK and a box controller for it. So if you want to create a control for your scythe, you have your bone over here. It sometimes is a little bit tilted, so don't get afraid. That's no problem at all. You can't create a rig for it, but you can create a box controller for it. Make sure that not only a box controller is added, you want to also create an FK control for it. All you need to do is you can either decide global or local. I normally take local, so I can get the access from the weapon itself, and then all you need to do is create add. This will create a bone for a rigid body for the weapon itself, but most importantly, we can create, it's very tiny, but we can create this box controller, which you can resize, so we can see it a little bit better. Let's make 10, 10, and 10, and there we are. This box controller will allow us to work with it. So if we have a quick look at the animation view over here, so it's right here now, unfortunately, inside of her, but we can go on box controller and then you'll see the box of it. So now you can move it, and as you can see, you can rotate it and place it as you please. Now, very important to know, depending, this is the workflow that you would do if you don't want the weapon attached directly to the character. If you do want to attach the weapon directly to the character, then you can simply go on the character itself. In this case, I'm going to select the character and go on quick rigging tool, and you'll see here weapon. This will add the weapon directly to your character, but then you can't move it away. If you want to have the freedom of being able to move the weapon without it having to stick to it, you can do this process. So you have their own box for and their own FK control for the weapon. In case that you want it sometimes to be attached to it and to follow the arm, then you can simply go on the rigid body of the weapon, and here you'll see in points update settings, bind with parent. You have to bind it to the hand first. So here the rig element joint and scythe needs to go onto the right hand. So all I need to do is drag this and put it underneath the end. So now you see there is a connection there. And if I then press on FK on frame, this will connect it. And then when I move my arm, I'll see it's a little bit crooked, it's a problem, but now if I move my arm, there you go, it will move with it. So in this case, you would want to place the weapon inside of a hand so it follows along. And you can turn this back off again if you want to make frames where she holds it and frames where she doesn't hold it. You just need to really select and turn off FK on frame. So yeah, that's how you can handle the interactions between weapon and characters and what you should know between the different types of characters and how the tool perceives it. So the best case, you're going to work with a humanoid character that has a humanoid skeleton and make sure that the naming convention is fitting. All right, as a last point, I just want to have a quick look at how to deal with cloth simulation. There's many different ways on how you can handle cloth. In this particular case, what I did is I took the pieces of cloth and I copied the weights from the body onto the cloth so that they move with the leg. I have a small walk animation so you can see, but it still looks a little bit stiff. You can add or combine this with Unreal Engine's cloth simulation, chaos cloth, by creating a cloth painting material that you can assign it to the mesh or to the parts that need clothing. And just very important here, when you do this, be subtle with the painting values. You can then paint on the different kinds. It will appear like this. When it's white, it means that there's information, clothing information on it. But be very subtle with this. Here you can put the value, the paint value, on how much you want to add to it. 100 is already quite a lot. The more you put paint value in it, the more it looks like cloth, but depending on how complex your animations are, there could be a lot of flickering or clipping that doesn't look so well. So what I did here, I have probably around a value of 3, starting from the bottom and then smooth it out towards up. I would start very low and then ramp up from there, see how it looks, trying out by adding more than adding less, so you don't have that clipping. You could also just simply take the piece of cloth and create a personal rig for them. So you can control the cloth and weight paint it to that rig, and you can also put it then into Cascadeur and simply control it with FK and box controllers as I did for the scythe. Generally speaking, if you have interest in finding out more about cloth simulation and want to learn about the fundamentals, I suggest having a look at this YouTube video, how to create and use cloth simulation by Matt Asplant. It explains very much the simple basics on how to use cloth simulation in Unreal Engine. Other than that, I would suggest that you have a look into the Unreal Engine samples. Here you will have the content examples. This is a map you can enter. It's like a gallery where you will have a section for clothing and you can see, visualize what the different settings of the for the cloth simulation do and how you can control them better. Generally speaking, if you want to know more about the things that I just explained, I highly suggest that you have a look at the Cascadeur tutorials. You can go over here, learn tutorials, and start from very low to the very advanced parts. Or simply you can also go on Cascadeur YouTube channel, where you will find out also a lot of information on how to set up your rigs and things that you can keep an eye on. Just note, Cascadeur itself, it's best used for short span animations. What I did for this project is I did an animation all in one, and that resulted sometimes as difficult because it's highly suggested that if you do animations, you do short animations or short span animations, and you'd rather combine them afterwards. Other than that, don't forget to have a look at fundamentals. For animation, you should be aware of some basics. I highly suggest the Animator Survival Kit. You can get it in Amazon or any book store. This has all the basics an animator needs to know if you want to start animating or you are already an animating expert. There you will learn stuff like the 12 principles of animation that are key for you to create your animation. Other than that, I will be creating my own um, content in the future. And I will also post the result of my projects here. So if you are interested, then stay tuned for future updates. And thank you very much for listening. I hope that this was of some help for your own future projects. Thank you.